Welcome, bowling fans, to O.C. Lanes in Osceola, Indiana. I'm Fred Chrisman, along with Carl Kay. We're here to bring you the action of the Pete Fall Ford Masters Tournament, our second annual event here in Osceola. Carl, this has been a great tournament as it was last year.
Oh, it certainly has been, Fred. As we all know, the second year of this tournament, this pits the winners and the runner-ups of all the tournaments we've had over the years of the MBA, and this year's finals is very unusual in the fact that we have our regular announcer and color commentator in the finals, and I think you and I, Fred, are going to have a little fun with this one this month.
Well, we've been waiting for this for quite a while. We have 10 championships between the 5 bowlers we'll be seeing today. Why don't we meet them?
Okay, Fred. In our first match, from South Bend, Indiana, your regular announcer, your regular color commentator every month, Mr. Bob King. In that first match, he's going to be up against his sidekick every month, our regular announcer, Ed Castallenet from Mishawaka, Indiana. The winner of that match will proceed on to meet our most prolific champ, Bob Weiland from Goshen, Indiana. The winner of that match then will go on to take on, from Granger, Indiana, Mr. Terry Quimby. And finally, the winner of that match will take on our tournament leader, who, by the way, is the only man out of the 5 finalists that has not had a first-place finish, from Mishawaka, Indiana, John Maxim.
Carl, we've got 5 great bowlers to watch this afternoon. The scoring, I think, will be... I think you'll see some good games, but there's going to be some struggling out here, too. The conditions were not real easy, and as you and I both know, we both bowled this weekend. I think spares will play a big part, as it did last month.
Absolutely. Keeping the first ball in play, putting yourself in a position to have a relatively easy spare, and then I think carry on that first ball is going to be vitally important today. If you can carry the strikes, you're going to go all the way. That's
right. Why don't we get to the action? We'll be back with our first game in just a moment.
In the world of driving, there is a name that is legend. The name is Dunlop. A legend proclaimed on racetracks and highways around the globe because the driver who knows tires demands the legend. Dunlop, the world's tire.
Here we are back, bowling fans. We're at O.C. Lanes in Osceola, Indiana. This is our 1987 Pete Fall Ford Masters. And you're looking at Ed Castallenet, the MBA president, his first appearance on television, and his first shot of our first match.
Well, he came up a little bit short on that one, Fred, but I'm sure Ed's in a position now like he's not used to. He's not been in this position for several years on television, the opposite end, bowling, but it won't take him long and he'll get himself lined up.
You know, this, as I mentioned, this is Ed's first appearance in our TV finals. Ed is a former champion, of course. That's how he got here. Now trying to pick up the 2-4-5. He's got her.
And he picked it up very nicely.
So Ed Castallenet with a spare in the first frame. He'll be getting 7 pins handicap. And now you're going to look at another familiar face. This is his second appearance this year in the TV finals, and he's, of course, normally our color commentator for NBA telecast, Bob King. Bob will play extreme outside angle here this afternoon.
And a beautiful strike to start his match. He'll move now to LE11, and as Fred said, Bob King has got to be one of the best outside shooters in this area, Fred, don't you agree?
I think so, yeah. We talked about that last month. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this afternoon. As I mentioned in our opening, the conditions here were not easy. It didn't take a lot over to make the finals. But on the other hand, there were many good games bowled.
Yes, there were.
Second shot by Bob.
He had a good release. Oh, 10-pin. Well, as I alluded to earlier in the when we were out there introducing, I said that's going to be the key, is carrying these corners over here, Fred. If you make a good shot, you want to be able to carry those pins.
Mm-hmm. Bob will move to the left-hand side of the approach. I would imagine he'll turn his hand over on top of the ball. He usually does for these 10 pins. There you see it. Oh.
And he covered it very nicely. Whoop. Wiped the brow a little bit there. I questioned that somewhat.
Ed Castallenet now, second frame. Ed, a two-time MBA champion. His last victory coming in 1982 in Michigan City. It's been a while for Ed.
And he came up a little bit short, just like he did on LE11, Fred. He'll probably have to move a board or two and make the adjustment, but I'm sure he will.
Two, 4, 5 again. He had this the first frame. Got a nice crowd here this afternoon. Beautiful day here in Michiana for January 4th.
Well, it's a real great way to start the year.
It's gorgeous outside, and we've been very fortunate this winter not having any bad weather to speak of. He's got her.
And yes, covered it very nicely. Shaking his head a little bit.
I think you're right, Carl. Ed will probably move right just a little bit. He's come up a little light the first two shots of the match.
And I noticed maybe a little bit of hesitation there, but naturally, again, he's on the opposite end here.
It's a little
Fred.
different. It's a little different.
It is. It's easy to sit back here and comment, Fred.
Oh, it sure
but to
is.
go out there and execute, that's something else. A bit of concentration.
You see the ball in Ed's hand.
I got that out on the lane.
Oh, I'm surprised that ball jumped. It looked like he threw that one pretty well, but
right.
He comes up a little high, leaves the 3-6-10. Another 3-pin spare.
As I noticed yesterday in bowling here, you've got to be careful on your spares here also, Fred. It's a premium on accuracy on these spares.
Well, there were a lot of opens this weekend by a lot of different bowlers, and every one of these people that are in the finals had their bad games. Nobody bowled good games right through, but there were, as I mentioned, there were a lot of good games shot.
That's right. And he covers it very nicely again.
As we look at Ed's family, the wife Linda on the left, Robin, and her husband.
That's Tim Tharp, her new husband.
Now Bob King, third frame. He's packed both shots thus far, leaving a solid 10 in the second frame. We're very close to the action, folks, so we're going to talk low this afternoon. Pulled it a little bit.
Just like Ed did on the previous shot, but fortunately he only has the 6-pin to convert now.
Bob qualified for this event by winning the 1984 Chippewa MBA. He'll be defending, or I shouldn't, excuse me, he won't be defending, but he will be at Chippewa in 3 weeks for another MBA tournament.
And here's our Pete Paul Ford Tip of the Month bowler, so by gosh, he ought to be able to convert these spares.
That's right.
Fred?
This was one of his... Oh, oops.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
Almost a kiss of death there, Carl.
Yes. How many times do you hear that on television sports, Fred?
That's right.
We've got to have positive comments here.
That's one thing about spares, though. The power of the ball means nothing. It's just knocking the pin over, unlike a strike shot. So Bob marks in the third frame, and Ed clings to a 2-pin lead through 3. Look at the concentration on his face.
Yes. There he packed a good strike.
Much better release there, and
Yes.
Bob has gone strike, spare, strike his first 4 frames here of the opening match. We're in Osceola, Indiana. If you just joined us, this is the Pete Fall Ford Masters, our 2nd annual. And you're looking at our Michiana Bowlers Association President, Ed Castallenet, normally behind this microphone, in the 4th frame, leading by 2 pins.
There he made a good shot. And he carried a good mixer. All right.
And that charges him up a little bit.
Yes,
First strike of the match for Ed. He'll move over to lane 11 now and try for the first double of the afternoon.
Ed still maintains that 2-pin lead.
I believe Ed's bowling with a plastic ball this afternoon, and Bob is using a urethane ball, so contrasts in equipment here between these two fellows.
And he gave it room again. And he couldn't carry that 7-pin out of there.
That's a bad break. That was a good shot, and the pin seemed to get jammed up as they were going into the 7, and thusly it still stands. So Ed will try and convert the 7-pin and hold on to a 2-pin margin.
He'll move to the right side of the approach now and cross the lane. And he converted it. He questioned it, but he did bring it in. Brings a little smile to his face.
Now Bob King on lane 12. With a strike working, he can take the lead with a strike here in the 5th. You notice Ed's not playing quite as far outside as Bob is in this opening game.
He released it very well. He carried it.
Beautiful shot there. And Bob King takes the lead. We'll be back with more of our first game after these messages.
Memorial art takes many forms. Anthony K. Memorials has the largest display of traditional, contemporary, and bronze memorials in this area. With no obligation, we would like to answer your questions and show you that the selection of a tribute can be done in a dignified and gratifying way. Anthony K. is the ideal source for expert design counseling. We're professionals who have the expertise to assist you in designing a memorial. Please allow us the opportunity to meet you and help you with your needs. Because you care, we care. We're Anthony K. Memorials.
Chiropractic work.
Believe me, chiropractic works, and it can work for you too.
We're back to the action, ladies and gentlemen, and while we were away, Bob King has strung together a 5-bagger and open up a 38-pin lead over Ed Castallenet. Ed going into his 8th frame on lane 12, and Carl, it's very imperative that he starts striking right now.
Yes, it is. He had a couple of tough breaks while we were away there. Left a couple of single-pin spares, Fred, but let's see what he can get started now in the 8th frame. He cut it just a little bit short, Fred.
Looked like he had a little more speed on that ball than he'd had on the others, and thusly leaves the bucket.
I've got a comment, Fred. Ed's physical appearance. He took a couple of months ago and decided that he was feeling better if he'd lose a little bit of weight. He's dropped some weight, and he says he feels excellent.
He looks very good.
It's helped his game quite a bit, and I think it's just something that the sports fans should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Trying for the bucket, and it slides away to the right, and Bob King now pretty much with this game in his hip pocket through 8 frames.
Yes, he's got a substantial lead at this point.
Ed's possible best score is a 2:05, and Bob King's working at a 2:39 pace right now. And Bob really got lined up. He's put pretty much every ball right in the pocket.
Yes, he has. There he got good lift on that one.
Yeah, he slowed that one down a little bit, and a beautiful shot there by Ed Castallenet in the 9th frame. And now Bob King. He'll be going to his 9th frame, trying for a 6-bagger. Trying for 6 in a row here. Yanked it a little bit.
Yep, and paid the price. Paid the price.
The 4-6, Carl. There's our sponsor, Mark Weisweaver, excuse me, from Pete Fall Ford. He'll be presenting the championship trophy and the check to our winner.
And he takes out the 4-pin.
Takes one. Still has this game in his back pocket. The outcome is not in doubt. It's just a matter of what this final score is going to be.
Well, with 2:05 in the 9th frame, Ed Castallenet, the most he could shoot would be 2:05 if he strikes out. So Bob has to stay behind the line here on 2 balls. And there is our winner. Ooh.
Solid 7 there. Bob will move on, and his next opponent will be our most prolific champion, 6-time winner, Bob Weiland. And Bob Weiland, that is very difficult to beat when he gets in this position. I'd like to take my hat off to Ed Castallenet. It's been a while since he's been there, and I think he had a great tournament.
He certainly did, Fred, and put himself in the position that he has to be able to bowl in this when he has all the responsibilities normally of putting this tournament together as our president for these years.
That's right.
We all owe him a real
We'll be talking to Ed in a few minutes and ask him how he felt out there, and he really threw the ball pretty well. He had a couple of errant shots to start with, but he threw a lot of good shots, and he had one bad break there in the 7th frame, I believe, where he left that 9-pin.
Right.
And Bob strikes, finishes with 225 in his opening game, and as I mentioned, he'll be bowling Bob Weiland in the next match. And now Ed Castallenet. Let's see if he can put 3 in a row here and finish with 205.
Looks like a nice ball. Oh, he leaves the 10-pin.
Solid 10. I'll tell you, Carl, this pair of lanes, you know, we mentioned in the opening, there's Ed's family, by the way, wife Linda on the left, Robin and her husband, daughter Melissa. She's quite an athlete, I understand. You can't see David there, the pole's blocking him. He went with the Penn High School band down to the Gator Bowl last week. Played he plays in the Penn High School band. And that the band got to go down and perform at halftime of the Gator Bowl. That had to be quite an experience.
Unfortunately, the weather wasn't that good for him. I'm sure he would have rather had nicer weather, but just the fun of going down there, I'm sure he really enjoyed himself.
Ed Castallenet, his final ball of the afternoon. He'll take home the 5th place check.
Before we get out of this match, Fred, I've got one other comment. Yeah, and he pulled it a little bit high. And he finishes with a 183 score. He smiles.
We'll be back with our next match right after these timeouts.